Hello guys, welcome again to Toloda, sorry. So today we are going to talk about Queen Elizabeth, uh, her death and the legacy that she leaves behind, not her probably personally, but how the monarch, the legacy that it leaves behind, and will it continue to haunt the monarch? So please guys, subscribe, share and like. There are some of you that are supporting us and engaging us in the comments. We appreciate, and let's get straight away to business. So when I heard about Queen Elizabeth death, especially, where I come from, Queen Elizabeth was is seen in two ways, as a person from Africa, is seen as a monarch, as a person who is respected, the monarch is supposed to be respected, she's supposed to be respected. But at the end of the day, we also see her in another light, she represents, an institution that doesn't have a really good history when it comes to its past. Our history of colonization, brutalization, and all these things, personally, when you see Queen Elizabeth through the media, because I can't say anything about personally because I don't know her, I don't know what they talk about. She looks like a very mature lady, good-hearted, very calm. She doesn't look like a bad person, I would say that. But when you look at the institution that she represented, because she became queen when she was on a trip to Kenya, and the father died in Britain, King George VI, and she immediately became queen. And that was around the 1950s. And immediately she became queen, Kenya was under heavy resistance. The Mau Mau were heavily fighting the British government. So until this day, she has never come out and acknowledged or said that, she condemned the past of what the government did. So, it brings some kind of mixed reaction between, the woman that we see on TV, she's good, she's calm, and the institution that she represents. She might be a good woman, but in the monarch, I'm sure there are hardliners. There are people who, even if you're a good king or queen, there are people who push you, who are the faceless people we don't see, but they're hardliners who keep on pushing a certain narrative. So you might try even want to say good things or mend ties between the kingdom and old colonies, but the hardliners who keep, no, don't do this. If you see Game of Thrones, there are people like Claude Baelish around her, people who just are hardliners. Let me just say that, because when you see and this is a past that still affects us through this day, because when you look at the 1900s when the British came, they took advantage of the division amongst tribes. They seriously benefited from it. They fueled the division, and they, us who are brought up in the colonies of Africa under the British colony, there's something we always say that they segmented the mindset of divide and rule. If I know tribe A has an issue with tribe B, I go to tribe B. I tell them, you guys will support you, will give you weapons so that you can fight tribe A. And that kind of system has gone over the whole of Africa, especially where the British colonies were. And there was so much brutalization. In fact, when the British Empire was giving African countries independence, especially a country like Kenya, you found that there was a haste to burn all the records, the documents, the witnesses were assassinated, so that in case they handed the government over to the African people, there was no much evidence showing the atrocity. So even the scale of how much looting, murder, we cannot quantify, because all the records, they made sure they destroyed all the records of torture. So even when we take a case, because the Mau Mau people have taken the British government to court, and I think they were compensated small money. And I think it was something of, I'm not sure the exact, but it was, it hasn't even reached $50 million, if I'm not wrong. It's between maybe the 14th or the 30 million, it's around there, for atrocities that were committed. So because there was not much evidence, so they made sure that they burned all the evidence. And this was a time when she was queen, because by the time we were gaining independence, she was a queen. So when you see how the monarch has, as his transition. I'm sure she's held dear in Britain because that's their place. But you can still see that we have the scars. The influence of Britain is still in our countries, especially in Kenya. You see, even the president has declared 3 days of mourning. But that's another story for another day, because even the leaders they left, this government, they left leaders that reflected the face of Britain, the leaders that agreed with them. So it's easy to find that African leaders, even today, still respect Britain, even when the Queen dies, because they left leaders that respect Britain. So when you see the Queen, the legacy, and how, because I've seen videos of her coming up, she's a mechanical engineer. She's, she was head of the army. Even when she was young, she used to do trooping of the colors and all these ceremonies. You see a very fierce woman, a very, good woman. But I'm sure, she's still haunted by the atrocities that were made. And for me, since since I've been looking at history, I don't think, when you hear about the British Empire, if it's not number one or amongst the top 5, one of the most war-minded empires ever in history, because if you look at the history of Britain, they've never approached any civilization in a diplomatic way. They have always been, the monarch has always been a war-minded mindset, starting from their own home ground, how they took over the Scottish, the Irish, and then you go back to, you go to China, you go to India, how they made sure that, they took 41 trillion worth of resources from India, they destroyed all the industries. You go to the islands, in Britain, you go again to the islands in South America. We know the Falcon Wars, where they went and took over the Argentina islands, and by force, and they send their military there. You look at the British history. We know the war in America, where they were taking resources from America and not letting Americans have representative in London, and then that's what created the war between George Washington's people and the king, and but George Washington won. So when I look at the British Empire, it's not like when you look at history, empires used to conquer, but have a force that, like the British Empire, has become a force that has really always prioritized force before diplomacy. They use force before diplomacy. Now they have changed, because I think the society is also tired of these wars. People are always resisting, and people don't understand. But colonization is a very, very expensive expenditure. Colonization is not cheap. Is not cheap at all. So if you come to a country like where we are, Kenya, and try to colonize people, you have to put a lot of resources, because first of all, the people are fighting you. They're not agreeing with the way of system. So for you even to subdue them for 70, 60 years, it's not small money. And most of that money is paid by those people, because you take away their resources and everything. So the Queen leaves a very shaded legacy. And for her personally, I hope she's found peace and everything. But the monarch, has what it represents, that's a stain it will never take away, because what they've done all over the world and everything. I don't think that that is the wash. It will have to go over generation and generation for it to wash away. And I'm sure also when she was there, I'm sure they've started reforms of how to portray the monarch kingdom, image now, because the past of colonization, they've accepted it will be there. They can't hide it. So I think the best choice for now is for the next king, King Charles, now to try and promote a very good image of Britain. The other day I saw he was in Rwanda for the Commonwealth meeting. Kagame is the chairman now. So, for him to engage, and also, and to move the Commonwealth organization away, because the Commonwealth organization is always seen as a group of former colonial states. All countries that were colonized by Britain have their own kind of United Nations called the Commonwealth. So they need to make sure that it moves from that image of being seen as a colonies of Britain. But one thing I'll give the Britain, even though they dismantled the fabrics of most African countries, if you compare countries that were colonized by Britain and countries that were colonized by France, you realize that the French countries, immediately the colonizers left, they descended into chaos. Very few French countries that were colonized by France are stable today. Look at the Burkina Faso, the Mali, the Chad, Algeria, Tunisia. You know, very few countries are politically stable. But you see, countries that were colonized by Britain, even though they destroyed the social fabric, at least they left some kind of strong institution. Hardly can you ever see countries that were colonized in Britain falling from coups, overthrowing of government. You know, you can see, you know, a country like Kenya was colonized by Britain, for example. Nigeria has had the first time of independence, had so many coups, but it's stable. You know, you go to Uganda, even though people say Museveni is a dictator, it's stable. You know, you go a bit of South Africa, it's stable. Tanzania, it's stable. So you can see that countries that were colonized by Britain, at least they've ensured some kind of stability than countries that were colonized by France, because it's like the France system of colonization was much worse, because one thing we need to understand that the French used to assimilate, you know, they used to make their own, the people they were colonized to believe that they needed to go to France, you know, like France was home. So if I was born in Mali, I cannot believe Mali is home. I believe Paris is home. So you find that most people are aspiring to go home. They didn't care about their own country. That's why you saw when the French left, the whole country collapsed, because no one cares. But you know, Britain, at least it limited the accessibility of Africans or their slaves, or their, you know, their, I'd say their people, the people they used to colonize, to access Britain. So it forced the population to stay their home country and build their home country. So for me, that's how I view the Queen's death. I just view it's just you know, as an African, you know, it's two things. You know, it's a sad story, but at the end of the day, there is something that there are some of the things that need to be addressed. I don't know if you want to add something.
And I think it's true. You're hoping that the Queen has found peace, because currently some countries in the Indian Asian type of countries are asking for the jewel to be returned back to its ownership. And you might find that, you know, in Kenya we lost Moi and Kibaki, and their reign became instantly over. Anything they had, any hold they had over anyone, anything that they represented died with them. So you might find that the Queen's death will bring up, you know, countries will start saying, now we want
Money,
to be compensated for the colonialism. So I wanted to share a bit of technical protocols that will be followed after the Queen's death. Okay, they've already been happening right now, but I want just to breeze through them and talk about a few of them. So one of the first things that probably happened when the Queen was reported dead by maybe the person who found them dead or something like that, the person to inherit, who is King, you said King Charles, will immediately become king. And then an email or a letter will be sent to the, you know, their council. I'm not sure what they call it, but the people who are involved closely with the Queen, who are leaders and things like that, will be informed immediately. And then I think there'll be a public announcement, even in the hospital, everywhere they'll be announced the Queen is dead. Even people who are flying in the sky will be, the pilot will announce it. They'll put the flag to, you know, they lower the flag and all those kind of things. I think there's also a few more protocols that will be followed. Let me try and see. They will. I think basically the protocol just involves a lot of announcing of the Queen's death and some symbolic actions to be taken. You know, something like a moment of silence for 2 minutes across the whole of England. The currency to be changed, timestamps to be changed, the King's face, and, you know, things like that. So as you can see, the Queen's death is really like a big event, because even Google right now has put black on its website, on YouTube and Google. And I think whatever the Queen represented now, you know, probably may not carry on with the King. And as you know, everyone has their own
Vision.
different interests and different agendas. So we might hope to see what is going to happen in the next few years in the king's reign. But I think the queen herself, everything that she represented has gone, I believe, has gone with her as she has passed away. And we might not.
And she just passed away like 1 year after her husband. So it means, the loneliness, probably also took her.
Yeah.
Because the husband passed
You
last
can't
year.
really tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think being that kind of level of power, it just shows you how big of an influence England has on the whole world. You can imagine what's happening in Canada, in Australia, and New Zealand and countries like that. And we might hope to see what will happen next. Yeah, so I think I don't have any more to add on that. Maybe.
Yeah, like I even saw Larimado, the CNN anchor, saying that the Queen's death is sad, but it leaves a stench of colonialism, and it has been taken very differently all over the world, because I saw even in South Africa, the FF Malema saying that they don't mourn the death of the Queen because of how they colonized South Africa, how most of the people died. So to them, they feel
very
that
violent.
they feel that a lot of things have not been addressed. It's not good for anyone to pass, but at the end of the day, reality is a reality. Yeah, and then people cannot be saying that Putin is bad, Putin is killing people, this is killing people, but other people are not being answerable. Even if it's not them, their own institutions are not being answerable. We need to be fair.
Yeah. And I think more countries will start coming up and demanding to be compensated for the massacre that they faced.
Yeah.
In the time of the Queen, and also the king before the Queen.
Yeah,
because it will probably start happening. You never know.
Yeah.
Maybe England will be put under a lot of pressure by these other countries to give up some of the things they inherited through colonialization. And you might even see there'll be a trend, an uprising against England. You never know how these things work, because if India
probably
is
even
demanding,
guys in Britain are tired of the monarch. You never know.
Yeah.
The citizens themselves. But I feel like probably the Queen might want to return the country back to, but I feel they're hardliners. My issues is I feel that they're hardliners. Inside the government, there are people who are very hard, and they have a certain agenda they are pushing. Yeah, they're hardliners. Probably she wants to make a statement to apologize, but there are those people who are saying no, don't do it. There are those people who envision the old in empire.
Yeah, there are always those people who want to stay in the past, do everything the way it was done at the beginning. And change is hard sometimes. But with the Queen's death, you never know what kind of change will take over, because the generations are very different. Because is king, maybe you can tell us, maybe the new
Charles.
king, is it the firstborn?
Yeah, he's the firstborn. He was the husband to Diana.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know his character that good, but we'll wait and see how he governs, because as you said, everyone has, if I was this kind of president,
agendas.
How I will rule, how
you
we
can
rule,
imagine
different things.
How the death of, maybe even the death of Princess Diana maybe changed that guy's life. Maybe he saw very many things differently after that, because losing someone that close can be traumatizing forever. Yeah. So do you have anything to add? Or
no, just a quick overlook at the monarch, what it represents, and probably what the future holds. Just a talk about not the common talk. I know the common talk is about Queen Elizabeth, the life she lived. There are so many voices, there are so many chapters of our life that we also need to look at, because at the end of the day, we are all humans. You can't just think one-sided. And I'm sure we are not the only one. There are so many people who have come, because even Larry Mado, the CNN anchor, I'm sure you know him, Larry.
Yeah, I know Larry
Yeah,
Mado.
he's also seen the
Yeah.
same thing. We must look at all aspects of someone's life at the end of the day, especially someone who represents an empire that had so much impact in, I'd say,
and
millions,
you
even
know,
billions of people.
yeah. And the impact was very negative because it was
Yeah,
massacring other
massacring.
human beings.
Even when you look at India and Pakistan, the reason why they're enemies is because of Britain. It's because Britain divided India and Pakistan, and that's why those two countries are enemies still today. If you look at the issue of Israel, why Israel and Palestine are in animosity because of Britain was one of the countries that, so, even though she wasn't at that time, where she was a small girl, it's only King George, but she's the face. If you're working for Microsoft and I find you, doing some funny things, I won't say you, I'll say the employee of Microsoft. You represent an institution, so you should behave in a certain way. Yeah, so that's how we are judging her. We are not judging her personally because we don't know her
as an individual,
but we are judging the institution that she represents. Because even if you saw Obama or Biden now sleeping, people usually say President of the United States of America. They just don't say this guy is sleeping. What does he represent? Putin's Russia. People saying Putin's Russia. He represents. So that's what we are looking at. We are looking at the institution that she's the CEO.
Because even all these protocols are being, after her death and everything, they're being exercised as an institution.
As an institution, because it's not a personal affair.
As a personal person. Yeah, it's not a personal affair.
Yeah, it's a whole institution coming together.
Yeah.
So
and yeah.
Oh so no, just finished.
One thing I forgot is that they'll also announce it on the local radio stations and the TV stations.
Okay.
And I think it will be now. I think with this, with technology and everything, it will be followed very keenly until the time she's buried and all that. Yeah.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah. So guys, are we done, Josh?
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for the support. We are seeing you guys are really, you're really supporting us, and it's really motivating us to continue doing more and more videos.
Yeah.
And please like and subscribe. Please comment down below if you feel like you need something, or you can give us a hint of anything you'd like. We'll keep doing more videos.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.